Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Chris Legaspi. Thank you for joining me today. Today, my friends, we are going to do a composition masterclass after one of the greatest artists in history and greatest composers, Johannes Vermeer. And today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to look at one of Vermeer's landscapes. Vermeer is obviously more known for those quiet indoor scenes, the window scenes, the girl with the pearl earring. But today we're going to examine the composition of this landscape painting here. It's known as Little Street. And what I want to do in this video is break down and analyze the composition and explain why it's great. So if you have ever looked at a painting and wondered, wow, why does this painting resonate with me so much? Why do I like it so much? Why is it so dynamic? Why is the composition so great? Why do I love it so much? I'm going to explain why Vermeer's composition in this painting is so brilliant, and that will help explain why some of those universal elements you'll see in other paintings that you may enjoy. So you'll discover why you like some compositions so much. And maybe if you're an artist and you want to improve your own composition, you want to make your pictures more dynamic, more impactful, you'll learn some very simple and universal ideas that we'll find in Vermeer's painting here and Vermeer's composition that you can apply in your own work. And I'm also, at the end of this video, I'm going to break down why I think this painting here specifically is not only important in Vermeer's legacy, why he's remembered, why he's important, but I would argue that this painting is important to art history and aesthetics as a whole. That's right, I got a hot take. There's something I discovered in this painting that I think I've never heard anyone mention, any art historian talk about. I think it's monumental to, like I said, Vermeer's legacy and art history as a whole. So make sure to stay to the end. So I'm going to break down that discovery I made. And if you're new to me, I'm a professional artist, author, and anime instructor. So thank you for joining me today. So we're going to do a very simple outline for today. First, I want to talk about the story of this painting, Vermeer's story. It has a very cool story. I'll explain kind of the origin of this painting, why it came to be, how it came to be, and why it's important in Vermeer's legacy, and why it's important to us as art lovers. And then compositionally, I'm going to break down the shape, of course, the tonal, of course. It says tonal, black and white, value. The color is brilliant, actually. At first glance, it may not be, but I'm going to show you why this has masterful color composition. And number 5, this is pretty cool. I got a hot take. We're going to close with this. Like I said, I made a discovery today researching this, and I think it's going to be really important to not just artists, but art lovers as a whole. So I want to tell you a little story about this painting, about the great Johannes Vermeer, our wonderful Dutch master friend, 17th century painter. Imagine you're a young painter and you had some success in your life. You know, you finally got a big client, a big patron, a wealthy patron who could buy you expensive paints. You know, during your time in the 1600s, 17th century, paint was quite expensive. Pigments were expensive, especially certain pigments that we'll talk about. So you got a big client, you know, you got a little bit of spending money, you're feeling good about yourself. You just got married, you know, you have a wife, maybe you have your first child, life is good. Life in your country is good. This is, you know, sort of, it's the good times in Holland. It's known as the Golden Age in Dutch history, or the Dutch miracle. Life is good. Everybody's in a good mood. Spirits are high. You got a little bit of spending money in your pocket. You know, your career as a professional artist is going well. Got a big client. So you decide, hey, I'm going to go visit my mom. You know, I haven't seen my mom in a while. So you walk over to your mom. You're very close to your family, of course. You're a bit of a mama's boy. So you go visit your mom. Say, hi, mom. How are you? Hi, son. I'm so proud of you. I heard you just got you got a big commission from what's his face, super wealthy patron. You know, you're proud. You're having a great time with your mom. And you finish up lunch with moms, and then you decide to go for, you know, you're a bit full. You decide to go for a walk. And then you go for a walk, and then you step outside and you see this gorgeous scene. This gorgeous scene. And you're like, wow, that scene is incredible. Oh my God. The light is so perfect. I love the shapes, you know, as an artist, you're going to notice shapes. We'll talk about that. Wow, I just love that. The shapes and the angles and that beautiful light. Oh, it's such a gorgeous day, perfect sun. Oh, I have to paint this painting. I have to paint. There's my aunt. She's sitting outside. Let me grab my canvas and capture this moment. Well, my aunt's sitting there. Oh, is that my cousin? Oh, I see my little cousins too. Oh, this is great. This is perfect. Oh, hey, Mom, I want to sit down and make this painting. So you sit down and make this painting. And of course, you can't finish it. It's such a glorious painting. You can't finish it all in one sitting, but you definitely want to capture the moment. So you do your best to capture the light and the colors. And then you take it back to your studio. And you finish the painting. And then your wife and your two young children come in, and we all celebrate together. It's a wonderful day, and eventually your client calls and says, hey, I would like another painting from you. I have an idea. Do you have any ideas? And you say, yes, I certainly do. I've been recently inspired. I don't know what it is. Something came over me, but I have an idea for a new painting. Let's get to work. And then you get to work on your new client's painting, and then the rest of your career continues. You make this, I believe, historically this may have been one of the most recent paintings after the little street that we just saw. So that was a bit of the story of the little street, my friends. The little street, and the date is a bit unknown, painted in 1657 to 58, I would argue. I'll explain why at the end. 1657, the little street. And I wasn't kidding when I said Vermeer saw this from his mom's house. His mother's house was across the street diagonally. And this woman, I believe this woman right here, was his aunt, his mom's sister. So these would be, she had 5 children. So these most likely were her daughters or Vermeer's cousins, Vermeer's female cousins. So that's the little street, and I believe either this thing in front of us is the little street, and this is or this could be this little alley. This little street or an alley between these two buildings, and this alley is called the Tripe Gutter, Tripe Alley, Tripe Doorway. Tripe Doorway. Let me see my notes here. Oh, it's called the Tripe Gate because Vermeer's aunt, this woman here, Vermeer's aunt was a tripe butcher or tripe. She sold tripe, cow stomach, right? Cow parts. So they probably took the tripe over here, washed the tripe over here, and this little, see this little diagonal line? That's called the tripe gutter because this diagonal line, you see it's a little bit of water. You can see he painted water, reflections in the water. What this was they washed the tripe, and this little gutter washed the tripe out into the water, into the canal. Because actually, obviously we can't see it, at the edge of this painting, at the edge of this little street, is actually water. And here's a picture. Here's a picture of the little street. This is what most historians would believe is the actual location. It does look very similar. And you can see the canal there. So most likely, you see someone put an image of Vermeer's painting that we just saw. So most likely that canal is right here. So that little gutter was right here that led water, that led the running tripe cleaning water into the canal. So, so cool. It's still a beautiful building, by the way. So that shows you a lot about, it tells you a lot about the culture that was preserved from this time. Because this was what's known as the Dutch Golden Age or the Dutch Miracle. This is a time with extreme wealth in Holland. It's a very important time in art history, I would argue. It's an important time in world history because of Dutch colonization. The Dutch merchant class rose up because of Dutch colonization. They basically colonized a bunch of the world and brought goods and services back to Europe, became very wealthy. So therefore the locals, the people, Dutch people, were quite wealthy, and because there was so much wealth, the Dutch people were incredibly cultured. The average Dutch person was incredibly cultured. They appreciated art and beauty and things. So that's why I say that this is a modern picture. Obviously, you can see this building is still beautiful, still aesthetically beautiful. They didn't turn it into an ugly, modern glass concrete ugliness that we see in most cities, because I believe some of that rich cultural heritage and aesthetics still preserved to this day. Because, like I said, during this time, the average Dutch person most likely had incredible taste, high aesthetics, high taste. So it's a very important time in history. And here's a picture of the painting. It's not a big painting, but it's in a museum in Holland. 16 by 20 inches, I believe. I don't quite know the meters. Let's see. 54 centimeters, 54 by 44 centimeters, so 20 by 17 inch. Not too big, not too small. And glorious painting. Lots of glorious details. We'll examine that now, and more in detail when we talk about composition. But let's just take a quick look and appreciate the glorious details. Let's zoom in here. So this is pretty high res. Oh my goodness. Let me take my big head out of here. Sorry. How do I take my big head out of here? Let's examine the glorious details before we talk about the composition. My goodness. Oops. Look at that sky, my friends. Can you see that? Can you see what I see? Look at the paint crackle. This is a gorgeous photograph. Look at the broken paint, the dried cracks in the paint. Look at the beautiful, for the artists out there, I think you're seeing what I'm seeing. Notes of yellow, white Warm white, yellowy white, and bluish white. Do you see that? My non-artists out there? Do you see how the sky is just like the sky in real life? Clouds, sometimes clouds get direct sunlight or warm light, so they turn kind of yellowish. And the sky, as we know, is blue. It's gorgeous color notes in the sky. Gorgeous fine details. I just discovered this recently. Guys, did you know? Look at the beautiful brushwork. Did you know at this time they didn't have flat brushes? This was painted in 1657 or 58. They did not have flat brushes. So that means he only had small little round brushes. So look at the incredible 1 or 2 or 3 hairs. And remember how small this painting was. Gorgeous details, gorgeous line work. Look at the suggestion of a hand. This is how you paint a hand, my friends. Not individual fingers, but beautiful design. Look at that. It feels, that's a person. Oh, that's a boy. Kind of look like a dog. That's a boy. Do you guys see that? That's a boy. So we can clearly see this is a young Dutch girl wearing a dress. But that's a boy, and he's wearing a hat. So this hat tells me that this young boy came from upper middle class local dress for a young boy at this time. Just spectacular, spectacular painting. Let's get back to work. I could stare at this painting all day. I know Vermeer is known more for his, I know Vermeer is known more for his window scenes. We all know Vermeer's window scenes. But now that I have stared at this gorgeous painting, I appreciate him even more now. It takes a lot of skill to compose composition. I'll explain why this composition is brilliant in a minute. If I can get to my little iPad here. Where am I here? Here we go. Here we go. Oops. I don't quite like this pencil. Sorry, I gotta practice a little bit. Okay. What are we talking about? Sorry, let me get a drink. Okay, we're going to analyze the composition now. I'm going to start with first the shape analysis, then I'm going to break down the tonal analysis, and then the color analysis. So shape, what I mean by shape is basically the major shapes that I see that build up any picture, this one specifically. So comment below, you can see it. Comment below, what are the major shapes that we see? What I mean by major shapes, you know, do you see these are basic shapes. Comment below. What are the basic shapes that you see in this picture? It's obvious. That's why it's so beautiful. Right? Do you see it? Of course, you see it. You see triangle, okay? You see triangle, you see the streets, a rectangle. So that's it, my friends. That's, And you're like, duh. I'm like, yeah, exactly. You're like, duh, exactly. That's why, part of the reason why this painting is so brilliant. It's simple. Simple is the key. It's basically an upside down triangle. That's the core shape design of this thing. Upside down triangle. And then you're like, well, I also see a bunch of rectangles. Ignore that. Ignore that. That's not the core. The core essence is a dark mass with upside down triangle. That's number one. The secondary mass or secondary thing the secondary thing of importance is the small rectangle at the bottom. The small rectangle at the bottom is important because that's what makes pictures balanced. If you put just one big element, it's nice, but you need a little bit of contrast to make a composition oomph, to give it some pop, right? If you just took that out, if he just had, oh, okay, I'm going to make my picture triangle. Yay, right? It's the Google, it's the envelope. That's fine. That's fine. But this is even better. It's off center, so that gives it some like, oh, that's right away. This picture is way better. You're like, oh, okay, I'm feeling you, Vermeer. I'm feeling you. This is nice, but it's boring. It's nice, it's simple, but it's boring. See, that off center gives it that little bit of oomph. So check. So look for that. My lay people out there watching this, look for that when you see a picture. If it's too centered, it's boring. If it's off centered, most likely that's a sign of artistry. Artistry means intent, means beauty. So that means craft and beauty. It's excellence. And then the next level is, you know what? That's nice. I'm going to do one better and do this. I'm going to give a little rectangle. It's an ugly rectangle. I'm going to give a little counterbalance at the bottom. And that, my friends, is mwah. That is in my opinion, three things, three compositional powerful tools in one masterful stroke. Tool number one is a big giant simple. Big giant shape, dominate your thing. One dominant thing, simple. Boom, triangle, simple. Done, check. Number two, off-center asymmetry, off-center. He didn't put it smack in the middle. It's a little too boring to expect it. He puts it off-center. So immediately, oh, that's why rule of thirds exists. That's why we like rule of thirds. That's why rule of thirds is on your phone. It's because it basically teaches you, hey, don't center everything. Make it a little bit off-center. It looks a little bit better. It does make the picture look a little bit more exciting. And number three, counterbalance. He put one dominant thing, triangle, and a second thing to give it that. There's actually a third thing. There's a third thing too, which gives it the triple. We'll talk about that in a minute. You see what that triple thing is? Are you ready? I'll show you in a minute. And I'll explain this. This is counterbalance, my friends. Counterbalance, which is, this is, right, a scale. That's nice. That's nice. Balance. That's nice. But this, my friends, is what he did. You see that? That makes a picture exciting. That's counterbalance. That's what makes a picture give it a bit more drama, a bit more excitement, a bit more fun, a bit more a bit more oomph. That's what you want. Now, there's a third element to add to this counterbalance. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Do you see it? Comment below. Do you see what the third element? Big triangle, dominant number one. Small rectangle, element number two. Subordinate, element number two. What's the third subordinate element? Do you see it, my friends? Do you see it? No, it's not the windows. No, it's not the windows. Do you see it? And I'm going to use special blue ink. I'm going to make it blue-green, so it looks even more specialer. My friends, this is the brilliance of Vermeer, the brilliance of this painting. Let me zoom in so you could see it. Subordinate element number two, or element number three, which is subordinate to the dominant triangle, is the people. And they are kind of roundish and organic. The people. The people. Everything is building, street, hard, man-made, straight, hard, straight, building, man-made, boom, made by God, organic. And of course, there's some trees. That's nice, but they're so dark. And trees don't appreciate this picture. This picture was made for human beings. Human beings look at it and go, oh, I see me. I see me. I see a human being. I see me. So, you see, my friends, it's not that hard. I mean, it's hard if you don't have someone like me explain it to you. But it's not that hard. Number one, make your thing simple. Slap on a triangle. He used upside down. This was invented a billion years ago by the original realists, Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael. The painters who painted for the Catholic Church invented the triangle. It's easy. Boom, slap it on there. Or a big rectangle. Boom, simple. Number two, put it off a little bit off center. A little bit off center. Don't slap it in the middle. It's kind of boring. Number three, give it a counterbalance. Put a second element, but not as big as the first element. Okay? And then if you want a little bit more flavor, put a third element that's even less smaller than the other three. So if we look at our counterbalance, what he's done here, this is masterful, my friends. This is masterful. If we look at our counterbalance, little crude diagram here, what he's done here is you have a scale. That's the balance. He put it off balance. Big dominant element, which is upside down triangle. Huge element. And then he put small little rectangle, Small-ish rectangle here, and then little dots of people. You see? That's little street. That's brilliant composition. Copy that, if you're an artist and watching this, copy that. If you're a layperson watching this, I hope I explained why some paintings look good to you. I hope that makes sense. Hope that makes sense. Let's move on to composition. I got more, my friend. It gets deeper. It gets deeper. I still got to reveal the hot take of the discovery I made in this painting. It gets deeper. It gets deeper. We just started. We're going to move on to composition, tonal composition. We're going to move on to tonal composition now. But before we do, I just want to take a quick break to appreciate the painting. And I want to ask you a question, those of you watching. Comment below. This painting is called Little Street. Little Street. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the Dutch name. Dutch speakers will... I'm going to do you a favor, not try to pronounce it in Dutch. It's called Little Street in English. Comment below. What do you think he means by little street? Is it this street? This is literally, it is a small street. We saw that the water, this is right at the water's edge. Is it this little street? Or is it the alley? Is it the street? Because this is also a street. This is an alley between two buildings, the left and right building. It's also a street because this also goes back, I believe it goes back to these other buildings in the background you see here. Comment below. Is he talking about this little street, the Tripe Gate, or this street, the actual street of this? Comment below. I'm not quite sure, but it's exciting to think about. Ah, Vermeer's awesome. Vermeer's so cool. Anyway, let's get back to work. Sorry, guys. I just get so excited. I get so hyped talking about composition. I don't know why. It's so exciting to me. Let's talk about tone. Let's talk about tone now, my friends. This is easy. This is a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer. Oh, it's weird. Why is it doing it? Why is it doing that? Huh? Why is it doing that? Why is that brush doing that? Trying to clean up my work here. So this composition, tonal composition, this is easy. It's basically in my mind, it's two values. It's two values. It's that big triangle. Because the core of this painting is, the core of the design is triangle. So it's big triangle with a dark mass. And yes, there's little white bits for detail, But that's not the core of the tonal design. That's just little things he used to make it a more complete picture. The core of the design is a dark mass with the big upside down white triangle. Two values, really, at its essence. Yes, there's the street has some tone. Yes, it does. It's not pure white. I get it. The street does have some tone, so it's not pure white, but it's the intent is basically two value. So it's real simple. And when we get to the color next, I'll explain why this is conscious. He consciously kept the values dark and simple because he did some beautiful things within the color that I'll explain. Because in my opinion, this painting is about light. It's about light, and he wanted the light to glow. In order to do that, he needed to make it dark. He needed to make it dark. So it's about light and it's about color. Actually, that's one of the things I discovered. So that's basically it. Two values. And for those of you watching who we'll talk about details more in a minute, but those of you watching who are probably screaming at me like, sorry, those of you watching who are probably screaming at me like, Chris, how dare you? There's so much detail. No, the thing is, I see lights, I see detail. The only reason why you care about the detail and why you notice it is because he had to frame it in simplicity and massing. If he made it super busy and he made, I'll prove it to you right now. None of these details work. He had to simplify this big dark shape. He probably ignored a lot of details in the contour purposely. We don't know exactly what the old building looked like, the original building looked like. But he purposely, I would argue, ignored some of the details. Because let's say he did this. Let's say he's like, oh, he's not trained, and he's like, oh, I see this detail. Oh, I see this detail. I see this detail. Oh, I see the highlights in the tree, but I'm not trained, so I'm going to make them really bright. And oh, I see this in the contour. Obviously, the white paint was purposeful. Besides, oh, I see that. Oh, I see this. Oh, I see. Oh, you know what? I see. Oh, I see this little nuance. Oh, I see this. I see this. Oh, I see this thing. And right. Now look at it. It's a hot mess. It's a hot mess because the shape is almost gone. The intent is gone. You lose that brilliance of the simplicity. Remember, simplicity is king. And you lose the brilliance. It turns into a hot mess. And now you don't care. Now you won't even want to look at this picture. You're like, I don't care about the gorgeously crafted hand that we just saw. I don't care about the gorgeously crafted figures. I don't care about that boy's brilliantly crafted costume. I don't care about that gorgeously crafted perspective in the street. I don't care about that gorgeous line work in the bricks. I don't care. I don't want to look at it because it's so ugly now. It's busy and distracting. So I say that because if you're an artist watching this, and because I've been saying this for 10 years, it's like, cut it out. cut it out. Mass your stuff, please. Make simple masses and then add details here and there to tell the picture of your story, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Okay? Don't add details everywhere in the beginning for no reason. You'll ruin your picture. See, I just ruined this gorgeous, simple design. So I say that because Vermeer didn't do that. That's why that's why this painting is so gorgeous. That's why this painting is remembered. That's why he's remembered. That's why we love his window paintings. He didn't do that either in there. He kept everything simple because he wanted to frame the details that he wants you to that he cared about, he wants you to notice. He had to frame it in simplicity. And you do that tonally with massing. Sorry. I've been teaching so long. I look at student work every day. And I see this every day. I see students mess up their composition by adding busyness and noise everywhere. And I'm like, guys, I've been making massing videos for 10 years. Please cut it out. Here's another one. God, jeez. And I didn't invent this, you know? I didn't invent tonal massing. I learned it from my teacher, Steve Houston. He got it from Dean Cornwell, who got it from Howard Pyle. And he got it from somebody who studied near Vermeer. You understand? And Rembrandt. It's not new. So I just, please, if you're an art student watching this, please mass your stuff. And if you're like, I don't know how to design masses, copy Vermeer like I'm doing. Anyway, anyway, that's the tone. The tone is simple. Let's talk about color, because color, my friends, will rock your world. Will rock your world. Let's talk about color. Oops. Sorry, like I said, I look at student work every day. Every day. I see student work every day, and I see this every day. It drives me crazy. I'm like, God, it's not like this is the first time I've said, hey, why don't you mass your compositions? It's not the first time I said it, and I still see it every day. It drives me nuts. Okay, guys, let's get serious for a minute here. Let's talk about color composition. My friends, color composition is kind of hard. It's kind of hard. Color is hard. Color is hard because it has all the elements of black and white on top of and then you add all the elements of picture making, shape and line, tone and mass, value, edge, and boom. Color has shape, color has a value you have to control, and you have to control the edge, and gradients, how it interacts with each other. It's hard. So I'm going to try to break it down as simply as I can. I'm going to try. And if you're a layperson and you're looking at this, you may be thinking, oh, Chris, if you're a layperson and you're looking at the little street, you may be thinking, oh, Chris, I don't see much color. It's kind of like, it's kind of desaturated. It is. And desaturated colors are actually more difficult to control because desaturated colors, less intense, more grayish colors are more subtle. And as we know, in any skill, in any field, subtlety is what takes the mastery. takes more skill to be more subtle. The more skilled you are, the more subtle you can be. Right? In music, it takes more skill to play softer, quieter notes. In athletics, sports, martial arts, or whatever, it takes more skill to perfect the subtle movements in your athletic or your sport. Same thing in painting. The subtle color notes and fields and accents, the more grayish color takes way more skill than more saturated. This gray brick red, and you see I found a brick red shirt for this lecture here. This brick red is way more difficult to control, to compose, to make beautiful, to harmonize in a picture than this more intense saturated red, vermilion red most likely. And little notes of green here. So, color composition. Number one, just like in tonal composition, we want in shape in life, in art in general, simple is the key. It makes our lives easier. It makes picture making easier for the artists out there, and for the lay people watching this, it makes pictures that we like more impactful, because if they're simple, it allows you to it resonate. It allows lay people, more people who aren't artists, who aren't trained which is the majority of the world, to resonate, to enter your picture, to be a part of your picture. And he does the same thing here. His shape was simple, big fat triangle. His total mass was simple, big fat light white triangle in a dark mass. And his color is simple, my friends. He has a dominant shape element. He has a dominant mass, tonal composition. Comment below, my friends, what is the dominant color in this picture? I already gave it away. It's red. Of course, it's red. It's this brick red. Let me look at my notes here. I have it written down. Madder Lake. Some kind of reddish ochre madder lake. Madder Lake is, I've never used it, but I'm assuming it's a very old type of pigment. Probably came from a lake in a place called Madder. Most likely. A lot of these pigments are named after the place where you get the dirt. So back then, they still do. They use dirt dirt and clay and things, rocks, to make our pigments for artists. So Madder Lake is this red. So there's brick red. Gorgeous red, obviously. So most of the picture is red. Most of the picture is red, earthy red or brown. Earthy red means it's red plus a bit of orange. So earthy red and orange, keep that in mind. That'll be important in a minute. So earthy red and orange. Earthy red and a bit of yellow. That's what ochre is. So I looked this up in Wikipedia. Yellow ochre is, that's what these notes are here. These yellow notes here, this yellow note on this character here, that's yellow ochre. Most likely, that's my favorite ochre. In fact, right now I use Old Holland brand yellow ochre, which is spectacular. Very expensive brand of oil paint, Old Holland. And so most likely, this is what Madder Lake looked like. This is Madder Lake out of the tube, this red doorway here. Madder Lake out of the tube, and this is the Madder Lake plus hints of yellow ochre and hints of ultramarine blue, which we know is in this painting. He used ultramarine blue in many of his paintings, which is here. That's what this blue is right here, and ultramarine blue at the time was very expensive. It came from a stone called lapis lazuli. Forgive me if I mispronounce it. And it came from the Middle East. It came from the Middle East. It was expensive to get. So he had it. That's why, remember the story in the beginning, I said, most likely in this scene, going back to the story, most likely Vermeer was in a good mood when he painted this scene, because he painted this picture at the time when his career was just beginning, most likely, in order for him to have ultramarine blue, which he did in The Milkmaid. In order for him to have ultramarine blue, a patron had to buy it. From what I understand, Vermeer was middle class. He wasn't that rich, but he married into wealth, and he had a wealthy patron who could buy him ultramarine blue. So the point is, ultramarine blue is there. It's a luxurious blue. It's a gorgeous blue. It's my favorite blue. That's clearly here on this thing. So this is probably brick red, which is made of this Madder Lake red, touch of yellow, touch of blue to give it a browniness. So brown red, my friends. So that's the dominance of this picture. And then the secondary, remember, we want a dominant element. We want a secondary element, which is this, the blue. And that's it. That's it. So that's number one. Let me get that on the iPad here. That's important. Yeah, it's ugly. So just like in shape composition, tonal composition, the dominant thing is red. The second thing, the counterbalance, is, or the secondary element, I believe, is the blue sky. You could argue it's the ochre at the street, the ochre white at the street. Let's give it some blue here. Let me just use color picker. And remember, we saw some warm notes. Warm, this is it's important. It's important to the story, to the hot take I have at the end. Okay, so it's something like that. Something like that, just basically dominant blue. And then the ochre at the bottom. Of course, he didn't. He just put hints of ochre. You can see that in my simple picture, without all the detail, you can see that there's a lot of yellow in that brick red. Because I just grabbed this brick red. Oops. I color picked it. I color picked it from the painting. Obviously, there's nuances of red, but it's essentially, like I said, it's a browny red. So that's the core of his color composition. You see how simple it is? Shape first, value first. The red is quite dark, as we saw. Sky is quite bright. Shape first, value first. Make a dominant. This is how I compose. I learned this from Nathan Fowkes. He basically, we're close in lineage to Vermeer. So those of you who are watching this who study with me, you're close in lineage to Vermeer. This is exactly how I work. I just pick one. Once I have the shape, then I pick a color. I go, huh, what color should it be mostly? Boom, red. Okay, good. Reddish, browny, brick red. Boom. Oh, what color should it be secondary? Oh, okay. Blue sounds nice. A desaturated blue sounds nice. Boom, there. Oh, wow, it works. It works because, you know, the values work, but also the ratio works. It's the ratio is important here. Just like in detail and shape, the ratio works, like we saw with that counterbalance scale. So the ratio works, it's beautiful. But of course, this is level 1. This is level 1, as we saw. This is level 1. Of course, the master takes it, cranks it up a notch. He shows you his mastery. You want to see that, my friends? Of course, you can already see it. You already know where I'm going with this. Those of you who So what does the master do to crank up the composition a notch, to make it pop and sizzle? So my friends, he does two things. he does two things. One is the complement. The complement. Now, he already did the complement of the orange. Remember, this red is not, it's not cadmium red, it's not red. It's orangey brick, earthy red. It's red plus brown. What's in brown is orange. So it's red, yellow, and blue. So it's red and yellow. It's basically a reddish orange, earthy brown orange. So we have the sky. We already have, check, we got the sky. We got the sky to complement that. So he's got that. Oops. Got mostly that. That's his palette so far. He also adds green. Of course, we can see the green. And he adds a couple flavors of green. Well, I would say, yeah, it's gray, ultramarine. He made a gray, blue-green, that woman's skirt. But clearly we see the tree and the door. Clearly we treat the window thing here. It's right here. Tree, right, green, touches of green. So there's his palette so far right there. There's his palette so far. Nice. In the painting, it kind of looks, it's arranged kind of like this. Boop, 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 boop. And of course, it touches, just accents. So you see, it's so nice. See, now it's got more flavor. Now it's got more flavor, you see? Right? Look at the little thumbnail. Now it's got a bit more zing. It's got a bit more zing, right? Before, yeah, that's nice. After, it's got a bit more pop. It's got more pop and sizzle. It's like, it's got a little bit of spice. He gave you a little bit of spice. So that's brilliant, my friends. And then number 2, complementary color, red and blue for the orange and the ochre in the building. Touches of green, but not saturated green. Gray green, right? It's not sizzling green. It's not a pure green. It's a grayed down green. But he uses a saturated red. We can see that in the door, of course. Our little window thing here. Right here. And going to his palette. It's not that saturated, actually. A little bit of accent like that. And on the painting, it looks like this. Oops. Look at that. Look at that sizzle. Oops. Look at that sizzle in our thumbnail, my friends. Wow. That is sizzling. That is cool. See that little oomph? It gives it that poop. That little green in the corner. Like, oh, wow. Interesting. 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 Wow. You see how easy it is, my friends? You see the ratio? First the shape works, then the value works. That's step 1 and step 2. None of this works without that. You just heard me rant about how you must keep your masses masked and simple. And you do the same thing in color. You just slap on mostly one and then little strategic dots, strategic notes of color somewhere else, right? And in your secondary shape, you don't make it pure ultramarine blue, right? That big sky shape. He didn't make it pure ultramarine sky blue. He just put little notes of it. There is a little note of ultramarine blue in the woman's dress. That's most likely his cousin, one of his girl cousins. So he put that little note there. And she's very important to the legacy of Vermeer. And I'll explain that at the end. And I believe this is important to note. Guys, at the time, oops. Guys, at the time, ultramarine blue was more expensive than gold, I believe. Maybe hyperbole. Ultramarine blue was more expensive than gold because it came from Afghanistan, I believe. It's a stone that can only be found in the Middle East. And the Middle East is really far from Holland. It's really far from Europe, right? You had to go far to get it, and then artists and craftsmen had to process this rare stone to make this gorgeous blue. Ultramarine blue, that's why it's called. It's ultramarine. It came from one of the, God, I sound ignorant right now. But it came from one of the coastal regions in the Middle East. Ultramarine. More expensive than gold. And he puts a lot of it here. Doesn't put right, in size it's small. In size, it's small, so that's important. He kept scale. He kept the importance of the scale. But I believe this was purposeful. I believe this was purposeful for two reasons. One, it goes to the greater story of the picture, which we'll talk about at the end. The hot take I have about his legacy as an artist and in all of Western art and aesthetics. And two, I believe he loved and cared for this woman, this figure, these people. This was his aunt, and these were his cousins. This was his aunt. He most likely grew up. He grew up in his mom's house, across the street from this house. He probably played with this girl in this house his entire childhood. He most likely loved and cared for this young woman here. So he's like, I want you, the viewer, to know I care about you. He probably wanted her to know he cared about her. She probably saw this and go, oh my God, you put ultramarine blue on me? I get ultramarine blue, not my mom. I get ultramarine blue? That's probably meant something to her. Ultramarine blue, remember, this is like putting gold on a painting. Let's say you made a portrait of your girlfriend and you took gold leaf and put it around her face. She'd be like, oh honey, wow. Or maybe you're an art buyer and you commission a portrait of your girlfriend or wife and you say, hey artist, can you put gold leaf around my girlfriend? She sees it, she goes, holy crap, is that gold around me? And you're like, yeah, that's how much I care about you. So this, my friends, when I do composition studies, we're doing a composition color study here. I try to get into what was he thinking at the time when he made that mark? What was he thinking at the time when he designed that triangle shape? I know. What was he thinking at the time when he chose this color? He could have made her ochre. He could have gave her a brown skirt like her mom, like his aunt. He purposely chose ultramarine blue. I believe he loved and cared for this girl. This cousin of his was important to him. So whack, he put ultramarine blue on her on purpose. The most expensive pigment in the world at that time on a figure he cared about. That's part of the story. That's part of the design. Of course, it's brilliance. It works. It's just enough. And my friends, and And, my friends, in color composition, my friends, watch this twice, those of you watching on replay. In color composition, if you put a color on one area of the picture, in this case he puts lots of blue in the sky, the sky is going to be at the top of your landscape, it's blue. You have to put it somewhere else in the painting opposite to where it is. So if you put a color at the top, you have to put it somewhere in the bottom. You have to, or else it will look terrible. This is optically, this is just the way it is. It's the way it is. So he puts it right here. But of course, because he's an expertly trained craftsman, he's a skilled composer, skilled colorist, he don't slap on a big glob of blue. Boop, just enough. Just enough, and it's small enough so he can make it pure ultramarine blue. That's almost out of the tube ultramarine blue. It's small enough so you can use the pure version of it. So you see, my friends, that's color composition, my friends. If you put a color at the top of your painting, you have to put it somewhere in the bottom. If you put it on the right, you have to put it somewhere on the left. Does he put pure vermilion? Yes, it's right here. Of course. Of course. You understand? If you put green on the left of your painting, you have to put it somewhere on the right. Does he do that? Of course. He does it right there. You see what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? That's color composition, my friends. If you put a color somewhere, you have to put it somewhere else that opposite of the frame. Okay? He does that, of course. So let's make a note of that now, because that's brilliant. Vermeer is brilliant. That's why we love him. That's why we love him. He's brilliant. Oops. Oops. You see in the painting, it's a little note. Boop. You see this abstraction, it looks hot. It looks great. Sorry, my friends, we still got a little ways to go. I've been talking a while now. So that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. That's a cool part of the story, in my opinion. It's a cool part of the story. Oops. That's a cool part of the story. Last thing, my friends, color composition is the white. Of course, it's the white. It's the white. But is it just white? Of course not. You can see it more clear. I hope you can see it on the stream, but in the high-res photo, you can see it. Look closely, my friends. Look closely. Those of you who are artists, you can already see this. That's not just, hey, here's titanium white, here's lead white, squeeze out of the tube. Nope. That white has color in it. You see that? That white has blue. There's ultramarine blue again right there. Ultramarine blue gray. This white has ultramarine blue right here. You see? This is white, but it's white plus blue. So this white has color. This white has color. You see, he took the white from the top, put it in the bottom. He took the white from the earth, from the ground. See, there's white here. There's blue here in this field of ochre to make it gray. See, that's brilliant. But right here. You see, he puts a gradation of ochre and a gradation of white. Basically yellow white and blue white, and they merge together optically, and it sizzles. So to me, this isn't, yes, it's a value, obviously, it's brilliant value composition, but remember I said when we did the tonal composition, Remember when we talked about the tone, oops. Remember when we talked about the tonal composition, I said ignore the white for now, because to me the white, the story of the intent of the white is a color note, not a value note. This is what I meant. You see, this is why I blacked this out in the tonal composition, because I knew when I saw this up close, I go, oh, yes, he wanted the value of the white is important, but not as important as the color. And we'll end with this, my friends, because the color has an importance. In the picture, the color has more of a story importance than it does pictorial. It has more of a story importance than it does pictorial. And what it is, my friends, let's go back to the color composition. This might make more sense here. Let's go back to my color thumbnail. Hopefully I can communicate this in a way, because this is important. This is important to the overall. What I'm going to tell you now is important. What I'm going to tell you now relates to what we're going to close with, and that is the importance of this painting in Vermeer's legacy. In my opinion, what I discovered is the importance of this painting in Vermeer's legacy, and these little white little rectangles symbolize that, or represent that. What these are is, what these are little, these are little color frames. And yes, this building probably did look like this. This building probably did have these little white things. But what these are little color frames to draw your eye and tell an emotional story about these figures. I believe this painting was a painting of, I don't want to sound corny, but he loved these people. He loved these people. He had a lot of fond memories of this building. And he wanted to communicate that in paint and in color. He did that. Obviously, the white brings out the contrast, but it's not ordinary white like we just saw. It's glowy, warm light combined with the precious ultramarine blue white from the sky. So it's lit by the sky dome, cool blue light, to create that sizzling. It's what he wants. He wants to frame the people he cared about with this sizzling white, sizzling color. So he's making the colors vibrate and vibrate, making the colors optically vibrate. Warm and cool next to each other vibrate. Warm and cool white, these colors are vibrating. That's why they're so special. He's making them vibrate because he cared about these people. He wanted you to know he cared about these people. He wanted them to know he cared about them. Because realistically, this white may not have looked that dazzling. If it was white, I bet it was probably more grayish. He made it dazzling and optically sizzle because he cared about these people. He wanted you to know he cared about them, and he wanted them to know he cared about them. So this, my friends, is emotional storytelling in color. This is emotional storytelling in color. He could have picked any ordinary white. He could have put a boring gray white. He could have put too much of it. He could have made his original tonal mass too busy, so you don't notice these fine white shapes. These fine white shapes don't work without the simple tonal mass. And they don't work without the more grayed down red. He did all of that color-wise to set up and frame these people, especially his aunt. This was his aunt. This was his mom's sister. His aunt. So he put the sizzling red next to her. I love my aunt. I have a lot of memories of this home. And also, I love my cousin. I don't know her name, but I love my cousin, my hardworking cousin who works hard for my aunt's tripe business. So I'm going to put the red that shows I love her. I'm going to put the most expensive color in the world on her because I want her to know I care about her. And I'm going to frame her in sizzling, vibrating white, in a sizzling, vibrating color, my friends. So this is a story, it's a love story. I know I'm getting a little choked up. I'm getting a little choked up thinking about it now that I'm staring at this because I'm getting in the mind of this man. And we don't know a lot about Vermeer. We don't know, he's a mysterious man. But for what we do know, we could tell by his work, he was a quiet, normal, humble dude, right? He didn't do crazy boxers or action scenes, or movie posters. He did quiet work. So that's probably who he was. He was just a quiet, shy, kind of humble dude. So this was his way to tell a powerful love story in a quiet way. This is so cool, my friends. I'm getting so choked up right here because I want this in my own work. I want this in my own work. I want this in my own work. I want to tell emotional stories that the viewer can feel from a distance. The viewer can feel when they see my work. And I want to do it in a way that's subtle and artistic. This is so cool, my friends. This is so cool. And those of you watching who aren't artists, you have to understand. I hope I made sense of why the color in this painting is special. Because this is not an ordinary white. So my lay people out there, those of you who aren't artists who may be watching this, who are like, God, sometimes I see a painting, it's mostly white, but I love it so much, I don't know why. Or gosh, I'm in a cafe, I'm in a museum, I'm in a building. And the white they use is different than the white in my house. I like it so much, I don't know why. This is why, because the white optically is not plain. It's not gray. It has some hints of either yellow, orange, or some hints of blue. This is special. This is special, my friends. Wow, this is so cool. So I hope that makes sense, color composition. Let's close with my hot take on why this painting is important to the Western world of aesthetics, Western art world. Okay, my friends, so we saw why the shape composition is brilliant, because it's simple. We saw why the tonal composition is brilliant, because it's simple. It's a big old mass, basically. We saw why the color composition was brilliant, because it's simple, and he put just enough accent, and he used the perfect color to tell an emotional story. Color has a lot more emotion. Well, it has a lot of emotion, so you can stimulate emotions with color. And what I discovered today is that I believe remember the story I told in the beginning, when Vermeer first had the inspiration to paint this painting. I believe that that's when Vermeer's aesthetic, as we know, was born. When Vermeer was just starting his career in the 1650s, this painting was painted in 1657, 58, most likely 1657, 56, that year, feeling good, got his first patron, married to a wonderful woman, a wealthy family. Dutch life was great. The mood and atmosphere was great in Holland at the time. His career is rocking. His skills are at the top. Life is good. And he walks outside. He sees a home that he has fond memories of. And he sees women that he loves and adores, his aunt and his girl cousins. And he sees something else that I believe would form his aesthetics, my friends. And that is what Vermeer saw Remember we talked about the triangle. What Vermeer saw was the light coming at an angle, illuminating figures. And metaphorically, what he saw was the light of God. At the time of this painting, 17th century, this was very religious time in Holland. Holland was very Catholic for a while, but then they split north and south. The north became Protestant, but still very religious time in Europe. And although in the north, at this time, this was painted Delft, sorry. The city is called Delft. So northern Holland at the time, northern Netherlands. Politically, it became Protestant. But Vermeer's mother-in-law, he married a Catholic woman, and his mother-in-law was very, very Catholic. His mother-in-law was, from what I've read, was wealthy and powerful. So of course, a good son-in-law wants to appreciate. Most likely, he was a practicing Catholic. He was a religious man. So to him, this design is, and it's not new, because, before this was the Baroque. The Baroque was basically dominated by religious paintings. Same with the Renaissance. Basically, the Baroque was the next progression of religious paintings. So that was a common theme. Light from above. It's called heavenly lights, light from God. So basically, this was a religious man who had a religious moment, and he symbolized it with this triangle. Part of the triangle is an angle coming down, illuminating two women he cares about. Right? That's the theme here. Woman he cares about, light coming at an angle, illuminating a woman he cares about, light coming at an angle from the upper left, from God, from the upper left, illuminating a woman he cares about. Light from the angle, upper left, illuminating a woman he cares about. Keep that in mind. Where do we see that again? Where do we see that again? Vermeer, light coming at an angle from the upper left, illuminating a woman. Where's that? That sounds so familiar, doesn't it, my friends? That's right, my friends. That's right. You heard it here first, my friends. You heard it here first. And forgive me, art historians, if any art historians ever watch this video, forgive me. This is my amateur art historian hot take, my professional artist, amateur art historian hot take. I am going to assert that the moment Vermeer sat down and saw this scene, it inspired his aesthetic of the window light aesthetic that we all love and know of Vermeer. Little Street that we just saw was, the exact time is unknown, 1657-58. So arguably 1657. 1657. Milkmaid, we know, undisputedly painted 1658. So most likely Milkmaid, the painting on the right, very famous, arguably his second most famous painting, besides Girl in the Pearl Earring, painted after Little Street. He painted Little Street and he goes, wow, that concept of the light coming from the upper left, illuminating a woman, is so cool. It's so cool. I'm going to do it again. But inside my home. This is probably most likely in his studio. Second floor of his studio is where his studio was. Of his mother-in-law, wealthy Catholic mother-in-law's home. Huh. Look at that. Look at that, my friends. This painting. So, light from above, illuminating a woman, 1657. Little Street. 1658. The Milkmaid, arguably second most famous painting. 1662, a few years later, he painted The Balance. She's holding a balance. 1663, 1 year later, woman holding a letter. Milkmaid, woman holding a balance, woman holding a letter. And you're like, Chris, oh, it's just a coincidence. It's just a coincidence that the he probably thought of Milkmaid too, Chris. How dare you? You're not an art historian. You don't have a PhD. Watch this, my friends. Let's go back to the Milkmaid. I skipped over this part. Let's go back to Milkmaid. When I saw this, I was like, holy cow. I instantly fell in love with Vermeer and fell in love with this painting on the right. I have to talk about this painting next. Because now I have to know more about the Milkmaid. Guys, remember remember the dominant theme, light on the left, light from God, illuminating us, illuminating what we love, us, human beings. God loves us. We are, to religious people, to Christians, to Catholics, God are the creation, humans are the creation of God. He illuminates us with his light and his love. And as good Christians, good Catholics, we wash the sins of the world. Wash the sins of the world. And we pour out and cleanse our sins. We pour out and cleanse our sins. So this is the tripe gutter. This is a gutter where this young woman, Vermeer's niece, is washing tripe, animal parts, to be sold. She's washing the tripe, and then the water runoff is going into the canal. So a woman being illuminated by God from the upper left, and she's pouring out water. Where have we seen that before? Where have we seen that before? Light from the upper left, illuminating a woman, pouring water. You see it, my friends? When I saw this, I was like, oh my goodness. obviously I have my own biases. So my biases tell me that this was intentional. But I'm going to go ahead and make that assertion, my friends. I'm going to make the hot take. Like I said, this painting inspired the milkmaid. Vermeer's cousin that he most likely loved and cared about and framed inspired the milkmaid. This painting inspired the milkmaid, which led to Vermeer's aesthetic, the woman being lit from above, from the upper left, at an angle, just like Little Street, at an angle. Remember the importance of the triangle. Oops. At an angle. At an angle. Little Street, 1657. Milkmaid, 1658. Woman holding a balance, 1662. Woman holding an envelope, 1663. The Astronomer, 1668. He has more. We know he has more. He has at least two more I can think of. The Self-Portrait and the woman holding something else, a recent discovery. So there it is, my friends. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you. If you like this kind of thing, I hope for the non-artists out there, maybe you've seen Vermeer's yellow earring, girl with the earring, pearl earring. I hope you kind of understand what gets also lit from the upper left, by the way. I hope you understand why Vermeer is important now, why he's actually very good. I hope I explained the incredible skill it took to make his paint, at least Little Street, the incredible skill he possessed, and clearly it's in his other paintings. I'm going to look at the Milkmaid another time, but I hope you appreciate things about design and color that you can start to see in the world when you look at paintings, when you look at the world, when you look at a building, or when you're in a room that's designed by someone with good taste, with high aesthetics, with good taste. That you go, oh wow, this room is beautiful. So I hope you learned something about aesthetics. And for those artists you out there, I hope you have a greater appreciation for Vermeer. I hope you can take some of the things from Little Street and put them into your own work, not just, because obviously I just showed you the angled light from above. You can make a historically great career out of it. So you should try, you could do something very simple and make a great career out of it. Being very simple. That's the key word. It's simple, my friends. Vermeer, obviously, technical brilliance. He had the technical brilliance to dazzle us with details, and there are details in all of these paintings, but none of it works without the simplicity and without the elegance of the simple design. So thank you for watching, my friends. I'm going to do more of this. If you like this kind of thing and you want to follow me, sign up for my email list, and I share videos, and I sell my artwork as well to my email subscribers first. You can get access to videos like this, more composition stuff, and my articles on aesthetics. I normally communicate by email first, so if you want to follow me, that's the best way to do it. Thank you for watching, my friends. I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.